What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 4 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. Already 4 shows in. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions last week. We got a lot to get to again this week. So, without further ado, back again. It's me, Jared. We got Chris, and we got Ian. Ian's video again is not going to work, so just his voice again. But let's get to it, boys. First question, we had a couple more questions this week, so thank you to everyone who sent in questions. You guys are awesome. First question comes from Mr. Ricky Barker. 2 weeks in a row, Ricky. Thank you for another question. Ricky asked, should the Reds trade Chapman, Aroldis Chapman, this winter? And if so, what do we think we should be targeting in exchange for him? Also, he asked, what about Frazier, Todd Frazier? Should we trade Frazier? I know that we all love the Reds. This is a subject that we've kind of wanted to touch on, but we've been waiting until baseball ends. But I got a feeling we're really going to get into this one. So, Chris, I'll let you go first. What about you? What do you think, man?
Yeah. Well, this is a subject that's near and dear to all of our hearts. I've always said, for some reason, the Reds are the team that everyone just has a fond memory and they love. You can be a Bengals fan, a Browns fan, a Bengals hater, a Browns hater. Everyone loves the Reds. It's a common bond. It's what brings us all together. My take on this team, you have to ask yourself, what is Aroldis Chapman going to bring to this Reds club in 2016? He's going to do what he does. He's going to get you 35 to 40 saves. He's going to be lights out. He knows the zone. How is it really going to help the team? I say they have to get whatever they can. I was actually pretty disappointed they didn't move him at the trade deadline this past season. It looks like a deal with the Astros fell through at the last second. And how much would they love to have him this postseason with that meltdown that they just had last night? I say you got to go with what you got to go with. You have to get what you can for Aroldis Chapman. He's a fan favorite, but he's just not a piece for the future. So count me in the camp of build off of Aroldis Chapman. Try and get a bat for him. I know it's going to be tough. That's such a hot commodity, but this team is just so depleted right now on the farm, and they have to get some offense.
Ian?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what Chris said. I was disappointed as well that they didn't try and move Chapman at the deadline. I think his value was a lot higher at the deadline since you're getting a season and a half out of him. I believe his contract's up at the end of next season, or he goes to arbitration. But I still think this winter they could probably revisit those trade talks with Houston and work something out. Luke Gregerson's been phenomenal for them this year, and I don't think they thought that was going to happen. I don't think there are great chances that he will repeat that performance next year, but I think the Astros have finally went through enough losing seasons to where they finally built themselves a winning team and a contender, and I think they're going to do everything they can to try and stay in the winning scene. So I think Chapman's still a good fit in Houston. I could see them moving him to Houston this winter. Houston has a loaded farm system. There's tons, and especially offensive guys. There's tons of bats in that Houston system they can look to get. And just, it doesn't make sense. The Reds are in a rebuilding mode. You see what the Braves did with Kimbrel the night before this season. They traded him to San Diego. There's no reason to have that type of contract wrapped up in a closer. I mean, I know he's done after the year, but there's just no reason to have that type of money wrapped up in a player that, I mean, yeah, he's the most dominant closer, but there's no point in having that wrapped up in him when, you're not going to contend. So definitely say we should move Chapman this winter. I still think Houston's a good fit.
I agree with both of you guys. I just think he's a luxury the Reds cannot afford. They are in rebuilding mode. I think he's scheduled to make next year around $12 million, or in 2006. Yeah, so next year he's scheduled to make around $12 million. He's a free agent after next year. So if they don't trade him now, then he's going to walk. He's going to want a big contract. If you look at David Robertson for the White Sox, he got a 4-year, $46 million contract in the offseason. Chapman's going to get higher than that. I mean, he's a much better closer. 33 saves and 36 attempts, so 1.6 ERA, and everyone knows how good of a closer he is. Like Chris said, the Astros would love to have him. I know that trade broke down. Also, think about the Nationals. The Nationals wanted him really bad. I know the Reds wanted two of the top 5 prospects from the Nationals, and they didn't want to do it. Instead, they went out and got Papelbon, and how badly do they wish they could have that back? I guarantee you they wish they could have Chapman over Papelbon. So I just think the Reds, they need to take a page from the Houston Astros book. The Astros realized, hey, we're not good in our farm system. Well, the Reds aren't as bad as the Astros were, but the Reds are in rebuilding mode. They need to, if they're going to rebuild, they need to go all in on it. Jeff Leno, the GM Jeff Leno, the GM of the Astros, I heard a story where he, on road games, he would pull season ticket holders in 30, 40, 50, 60 at a time and tell them, hey, look, I have a plan. We are going to be bad for 4 years. We're going to be terrible. We will lose 100 games. We will be bad. I promise you that. But in 3 to 4 years, we're going to rebuild our farm system, and we're going to do it through the farm. We're not going to sign these big, expensive players. I mean, look at their payroll. It's super cheap. Dallas Keuchel is the AL Cy Young, no question. He makes $524,000. That's his salary, $524,000. That's insane. He's the AL Cy Young. So they've done it through the farm system. I think the Reds need to do the same exact thing. I mean, the Astros went from worst to first in 2 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. Go for it.
The money may not work, but I've got one more team that I think could come into play for Chapman, and that's the Royals. And the reason I say that is Holland just went down right before the playoffs started. Going to have Tommy John surgery. They've moved Wade Davis from the closer or from the setup role to the closer. But if somehow he may struggle, or if they've got something going on where they can't find a dependable setup, man, I think they'd like to get a closer back in there. Holland will likely miss the 16 season, so I could see them possibly making a move on that, but it's going to take some juggling with that money because I know Kansas City doesn't like to spend.
Right. And to touch on as well as Frazier, if you're in full rebuilding mode, yes, they got to get rid of Frazier as well. He's already 29 years old. Statistics show that his numbers are going to drop. He's in the latter part of his career. I mean, what can you do? The Reds have to go all in on rebuilding. If they're going to rebuild, they got to go all in on it. Chris?
I agree, but you see a team like the Astros, when they went to the American League, they just completely hit the reset button and they nuked their entire roster. They sold everyone. The Cubs did the same thing when Theo Epstein came in. You're now seeing the rewards of those efforts. But to me, Cincinnati and the Castellinis, they seem like a ownership group that just they get too attached to these superstars. They love their Joey Vottos. They love their Todd Fraziers. They love their bobblehead guys. And the fan base, for whatever reason, just doesn't seem to be willing to let go of these players and risk being bad for so long, even though that's what it takes to win. I totally agree. I think they need to go young. They need to be smart about it. I'm not sure that Walt Jocketty is a guy that I'd trust to rebuild the team again. I think he did it his way with veteran signings, and he got lucky that he found a group that clicked when they had a strong leadership with Scott Rowland and others. But this is just a mess right now. It's just a hodgepodge of veterans and underperforming guys who are being paid big contracts. I just don't see them willing to make a clean break. It's going to be a bumpy road for a little while, I'm afraid.
And exactly like you said, Chris, you said they love their bobblehead guys. Like I said last week, the Reds seem to make a big signing whenever a player does something good. You look at Hunter Bailey, no-hitter. They signed him to a long-term deal. Joey Votto, NL MVP, signed him to a long-term deal. Todd Frazier wins the home run derby. They're not going to want to get rid of Frazier. They love those guys that put fans in the seats. They love those good guys. Frazier's an awesome guy. He's arguably one of the coolest guys in the MLB. But it's time for the Reds to let go of these guys. And Jeff Leno, GM of the Astros, in the interview I listened to, they asked him, well, aren't you worried when the Yankees and Red Sox and all these big payroll teams come and say, hey, We want your stars. He said, we'll take their money. We'll take their money and their prospects. We don't care. We'll rebuild. This is forever going how we're going to do this. So
I think it's the name of the game. I think it's the wave of what these teams are doing. You're seeing them. They're going younger, cheaper, faster, stronger, smarter. They go for the young guys. That's why you're not seeing the traditional powers of the overpaid rosters in the postseason. The Phillies and Yankees and that whole system of doing baseball is outdated.
you want to throw the Cubs in there as well. I mean, Chris Bryant, Schwarber, Rizzo, all young players, and they're all dominating right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those guys are going to get money eventually. But at the time, I think it's a win now with young players type game right now in the MLB. I mean, Ian, what do you think?
I think like you guys both said about the league moving to a younger, I think that or to a younger, age on that roster. I think it goes into the age that we're moving into with the advanced analytics. I think we're looking more into that stuff, and teams are wanting to go younger. Frazier, like Jared, like you said, probably one of the coolest guys in baseball. He loves playing the game. You see it on his face. Just a cool guy to watch, especially during that home run derby. I mean, there were people that weren't from Cincinnati that was rooting for that guy to win it. And
those people were called ESPN.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, he came on too late in his career. I think he's going to be 29 or 30 when he's due for the contract.
Yep.
And he's likely going to end up getting something like Kyle Seager did or Pablo Sandoval, and it's going to be too much for too long, considering his age. And the last thing the Reds need is another big contract like that. I mean,
Absolutely.
we're going to be paying Votto for years. We're still paying Griffey Jr.
Yep.
When I look at potentially moving him in the winter, I see 2, maybe 3 teams that are a perfect fit. And one of those teams are the Angels. The Angels are going to lose David Freese to free agency. He had a decent year for him. I don't think he's going to go back. They got 2 young guys in Caleb Cowart and Kyle Kubica that I don't think they're ready for just yet. They're 2 younger guys. I think they could benefit from a Frazier-type player in front of them. But when you look at that Angels franchise, there's really nothing there that I'd want. I mean, Mike Trout, but you're not going to get Mike Trout out of Todd Frazier.
They had their chance to Mike Trout. They could
have
draft
draft
him.
They could have. We see what happened there. You know what, Jared? We need to go back and revisit that one show and go back and talk about all those drafts where the Reds messed up. That could fill a whole show.
Absolutely.
But
That's painful.
you got the Angels. There's really nothing in that franchise that I'd want outside of Trout, and like I said, that's not going to happen. I think, Frazier being a Jersey boy, I could see them putting him on either New York team and him doing just fine. I think he can handle the media. I think he can handle the crowd. With the Mets, there's uncertainty with David Wright and his back. You don't know how long Captain America is going to last now. They certainly have a nice farm system they've been raising. I think the Yankees are another team you could look at. I know they're wanting to trade Gardner, and I know Gardner's a little bit older. He's 31, but he's a contact guy. He gets on base. He's a speed guy. I think you could possibly looking at bringing in Gardner in a deal like that with their second base prospect Robert Refsnyder. I think Refsnyder.
Gardner makes too much money in New York.
He does
so
make
is
a lot of money.
less money to come to Cincinnati. I mean, if we're in the rebuilding mode, let's rebuild. Let's build it to the farm system. Why do we got to go out and sign these guys? I mean, Reds fans just have to realize, look, Frazier's an awesome guy, but there's going to be other awesome guys here. Phillips is here to stay, it seems like. Votto, they need to look at shipping him off as well, in my opinion. His contract is very, very, very backloaded. He's going to start getting the bulk of his money soon, these next few years. So the Reds need to look at trying to get rid of him. I mean,
Totally agree.
I don't. Go ahead, Chris.
For anyone listening here, and when you hear fans call into these Cincinnati shows and you hear them at work complaining, I can't believe they traded Chapman, I can't believe they traded Frazier, what are they doing? Well, now we're trying to explain to you what they're doing. If in fact they move this way, which I'm afraid that they won't. I'm saying they should. I'm not saying they will.
Let me go
I
back to that Gardner thing real quick.
yeah, go ahead.
He's got 1 year left on his deal. So Gardner in 2016 would bridge that gap to Jesse Winker in 2017. So I'm not in the camp of re-signing Gardner to play later, but I think if you could get that Ref Snyder kid with Gardner, Ref Snyder's an excellent second base prospect that could come up and I mean, he's ready to play now for the Yankees. They just had no room for him because they've had other second basemen overachieve. Ref Snyder could fill the void when Phillips leaves. You know, like you guys said, you know, like Chris just said, this is what the team has to do. They have to start trading away the big pieces that everybody is used to, and they've got to start getting younger.
Agreed. I think we all agree on that one. We could talk all day about the Reds, and we will. We'll probably have to dedicate a whole show to it. But let's wait until the end of baseball. A lot of baseball, a lot of playoff baseball to watch. Unfortunately, it's not the Reds. But let's talk about the team right next door, the Cincinnati Bengals. Mine and Chris's Cincinnati Bengals. Big weekend for them. The Bengals started their season 5-0 in a comeback fashion, beating the Seattle Seahawks. First time 5-0 since 1988. Huge win. Confirmation win, like I wrote about. Chris, what do you think, man? Ian, what do you guys think?
I was very impressed. Even though I think we all predicted a win. I don't think any of us could predict the way that they would win.
Right.
The way that they just showed the resiliency throughout the entire game, and the person I'm most impressed with so far this season, and he showed it definitely on Sunday, is Andy Dalton. What more can you say about Andy Dalton? He's having himself a phenomenal year. You could argue the MVP of the AFL through the first 5 games. I think it's between either him or Brady. You can flip a coin, but you can argue that Dalton has done more because of the amount of pressure and the expectations that were in Cincinnati, and the fact that the knock on him has always been that, you know, he's not a clutch guy. He just can't win when it really matters. Well, I heard a stat on the radio the other day that said that out of 428 games where the NFL other team was leading in the fourth quarter by 17 points, only one of those games did the team what fell behind actually come back to win, and that was on Sunday in Cincinnati. It's amazing. That happened over the past 5 years. It's been a very, very long time. The defense, the crowd, there was just a different feel to that game. You could feel the momentum shifting. How many times, Jared, in the past, would you go down by, well, let's see how this one implodes. Let's see where he's going to fumble and what's going to happen here. Who's going to drop the ball? Are they really into this thing? And you notice the fans even believe. They didn't leave the stadium. They got louder and louder. The momentum shifted. I think they had, 6 straight punts in the second half to close out the game.
Yeah.
Phenomenal overall. Very impressive. You got to give him an A+.
I 100% agree. We got a question here. I'll give you my whole take on the game, but I want to get to this question real quick because, Chris, you kind of touched on it. James Bishop sent in a question. As of Week 5, is Andy Dalton the Bengals MVP? I think I know the answer to that one, Chris. And he also says, do we think that the Bengals is a first-round bye achievable for this team? Now, we touched on this a little bit last week. I'll give you my whole take on it. Chris, I'll let you touch. Do you think Andy Dalton is this team's MVP? Ian, from an outsider's perspective?
Without a doubt. Chris said the one word that I think has eluded Bengals fans for a long time when they want to describe their quarterback, and that's clutch. Andy Dalton looked poised yesterday. Right after that fumble, he looked like a different man. Right after the fumble Sunday, he came back out there. He guided them back down the field several times. Eifert certainly aided big time in that game. He was a monster like he always is. But I think Sunday was eye-opening. You know, you guys have talked about it the last couple weeks. This doesn't happen last season. This doesn't happen the last 2 years.
Agreed.
This is a whole different team. This is a whole different Dalton. And if you listen or read some of the remarks that Hugh Jackson had after the game talking about Dalton, I mean, he's a whole different person. He's a whole different quarterback. I've liked Dalton since he came into the league. I think he's always got a bad rap. And this is not a pun on his hair color, but the guy's on fire. You can't stop him. He's determined. It seems like all systems are go in Cincinnati. And then one of the biggest things I think about Sunday, if you listen to any of the player interviews after the game, Dunlap, Hawk, and Johnson all said it. They said 5-0 means nothing to them, and I think that's huge.
Yep.
That's absolutely huge.
Yep. I 100% agree with you guys. Watching that game as a Bengals fan, I never felt like we were going to lose. Chris, I don't know about you. I haven't felt that we were going to lose at all this year.
No. And
now, let me point this out. If anyone reads my tweets, let me rewind a little bit. I did tweet out at one point. I was sitting there watching the game with my future father-in-law, and I said, when Rex Burkhead fumbled, I said, let's just not get any injuries. Let's get out of this one. But in my mind, I said, we can still come back to this. And I told Ken, I sat there and I said, Ken, we're going to come back from this. And he said, I know. So fast forward to my thoughts now. I honestly think that the Bengals are going to – I thought they were going to win that game the whole time. Even though we were down, Dalton just seems confident. And like Ian said, if you listen to some of the thoughts of Hugh Jackson, Hugh, when he called that play and that play got blown up, Burkhead's fumble, he said Andy Dalton walked to the sideline. Hugh was hanging his head. Andy looked at him and said, Coach, what's wrong? And he's like, it's a bad play call. Andy said, Coach, don't worry. We're winning this damn game. Quote. Past years, Andy Dalton doesn't say that, in my opinion. I just think he's a completely different quarterback. He's taken this team by the reins. He knows that they roll on him. The defense is much improved after last year's debacle, but it's solely on Andy Dalton. If he plays well, this team plays well. And like Ian said, 5-0 is nothing. It's great. It's awesome. It just helps us get to the playoffs, but it's nothing. We have a long ways to go. This team, they want to do something special, and they have the pieces to do something special. If you look at this team top to bottom, it's next. Who's next man up? A.J. Green started the game great. He had 6 receptions for 78 yards. The Seahawks made an adjustment, moved Sherman on him. Next man up, Mohamed Sanu, 5 receptions, 69 yards. Marvin Jones, 5 receptions, 61 yards. Gio Bernard, 101 yards, all-purpose yards. Tyler Eifert, 8 receptions, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. You can go on and on with this offense. They are so deep. Andy Dalton has weapons all over the field. He looks comfortable. He's got time in the pocket. He's getting rid of the ball fast. They look good. They look good, man. In years past, down 17 in the fourth quarter, they roll over. Adam Pac-Man Jones single-handedly sparked this team. Chris, since the time he's been with the Bengals 5 years, it seems like he's always there when you need him on a punt return. He's always there on a kick return. You need a spark, you need field position, I got you. He puts
big plays. Big plays. And we also learned that this is not a fair catch sign.
I think that they got that one right. I don't think you can do that. But he's the big play machine, man. And the biggest play for me was, obviously him setting up the short drive so the Bengals had enough time to get down the field and hit the game-tying field goal. But also the interception, in the red zone of Russell Wilson. The Seahawks were driving. They scored there. The momentum is shifted. And Malaluga got his hand up. Pac-Man made a dive in the interception. So all around, man, their defensive line's good. Their offense is just stout. Seattle is the team that everyone should measure themselves to. In a lot of ways, they're like the Bengals. They were terrible for so long. A good coach comes in, kind of starts getting his own players in there and building through the draft, and now they're a contender. Now, can the Bengals be that way? I think they can. They have to have that confidence. Seahawks have swagger. You can say whatever you want about them. They're cocky as hell, and you need that in the NFL. Those guys need that. They need to believe they're the best out there every time. The Seahawks, I feel like, do, but they just weren't on Sunday. The Bengals are they're for real.
One thing that struck me, you listen to Marvin Lewis, you listen to Hugh Jackson, Paul Gunther, Paul Alexander. The media and the Cincinnati broadcasters and talk show hosts are in celebration mode. They're in a mode of happiness, and they want to reflect and relive the great moments of a game that took the team to 5-0 for the first time in forever. But you listen to Marvin Lewis, and you would have thought that they lost horribly.
Yep.
Not interested in talking about the game. He doesn't care. He was dismissive. He wants to move forward. It's like you said a minute ago. They don't even care about being 5-0. They're focused on Buffalo. At least that's the mantra they want to set. And if that's the way things are going to go, then they have a lot more wins ahead of them. Now, I think as long as you go one game at a time, Buffalo certainly isn't an easy place to go and play. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. I think they have a little quarterback injury issue right now. So
Yep.
things are looking
Well,
pretty smooth for Cincinnati. Just get in there, take care of business, and go to the bye week.
yeah, I agree. The Bengals still have a lot of things they can get better at. They don't tackle well. They're not tackling well right now. There's no way the running back for the Seahawks should have scored on that long run. I don't know what that tackling attempt was. It was terrible. There's a lot of things they got to get better at, and that's scary that this team can get better because they're really good. Now, the national media is not going to give them the coverage that they deserve, and I don't care if they do, frankly, but going back to do you think they care if they're 5-0? The Packers don't care. The Patriots sure as hell don't care that they're undefeated. All these teams care about is lifting that trophy again. The Bengals have never had that. So that's what you play the game for. It doesn't matter what our record is now. Bengals fans, slow down, one game at a time. We got another question since we're talking about the Bengals. Ken Rice asked, is it time to start Gio Bernard as a starting running back? Chris, Ian, I got my take on this. What do you guys think?
Well, in my mind, I know on the depth chart you had Jeremy Hill as your number one guy, Gio as your number two. In my mind, I've always thought of them as both number one guys. It's 1 and 1A. You can flip-flop them either way you want. And I think originally Gio Bernard was the number one runner for a while before they drafted Hill, maybe the year or two before. I think Jeremy Hill he's in kind of a funk. His numbers are low. I think we mentioned it the other day. He's got 3.4 yards a carry. Not terrible, but it's not what we were expecting or used to from Hill. And Gio Bernard is just hot right now. I think with those two guys, they're both talented enough that you can ride the hot hand and not get burned. I think if you see Gio struggling, go ahead and give Jeremy a shot. He's got a case of the fumbles that he's shown already. So, yeah, I think it's time to give Gio as many carries as he can possibly handle. And not only that, but he's a better threat out of the backfield as a receiver. So, Ian, what do you got on this?
I think it's a great problem to have when you got two excellent running backs like Hill and Bernard. I still think Hill's your starter. I think that they both excel in separate packages. I'm not sure Gio is physically ready to take on the load as the starter and the bulk of the carries. I think you got a little bit of thunder and lightning with that tandem too. And I mean, like I said, it's an excellent problem to have. But like you said, Chris, you ride the hot hand, see what helps you the most. I just think both of them are terrific. I think you stick with Hill, but you do increase the production as far as handing the ball off more to Bernard.
I'm from the old side of if it's not broke, don't fix it. Bengals are winning. I agree with Chris. 1A, 1B. Jeremy Hill's the starter. Gio is the package back. If Gio's getting a hot hand in the game, keep handing them the ball. But at this moment, they're winning. It doesn't matter. I don't think it should ever be, oh, this guy's better, let's play him over. It's a business. Let's win the games. If A.J. Green's catching a lot of passes, keep throwing him the ball. You don't fix what's not broken. Just keep going. Gio's a beast. Gio's going to get his yards. He's just a different package back. The Bengals like to use him out of the backfield. Throw to him. Let him get Jeremy Hill's a north-south running back. He's not going to kill you with speed. He's just going to run over you. He's that kind of player. So good problem to have. I don't think that there's any need to switch it up now. Let's just keep winning. So Ken, thank you for the question. Great question. James, thank you for the question. I never really give you my answer on that. I do think Dalton is the MVP of this team by far. Chris, I think you're same thing. So James, thank you for the question. Ricky, thank you for your Reds question, brother. Appreciate that. So we talked about our Bengals going 5-0, big win, an overtime win. Another huge overtime win was the team up north. We talked about it. Ian, your Cleveland Browns pulling out a great win over the stupid Baltimore Ravens. Let's talk, baby. What do you think about your Browns?
Second straight week that offense has looked stellar. Josh McCown is the quarterback of this team. I'll say it every week. I
Looking
didn't
better and
know.
better with those comments too.
I didn't think.
I think he was the AFC Air Player of the Year or Player of the Week, wasn't he?
I hope so. I voted for him 10 times today.
I think he was. So I think him and Andy Dalton are leading right now passing yards in the NFL. So
Absolutely awesome.
absolutely just crazy. But yeah, go ahead. You got the floor, brother.
I didn't know if he would be able to come out and top his performance that he had against the Chargers. He looked excellent in San Diego, but he came back out. The offense kind of let him do his thing. The coaches on the sideline let him do his thing. He looked comfortable against that secondary that Baltimore boasts that they have. He threw it 51 times. It's a lot of passes, but completed 36 of them. Got him 457 yards, a regular season franchise record. Only the great Bernie Kosar has more yards in a game, but that was the playoffs, and hopefully one day we'll see those playoffs again. But big thing, he threw for 2 scores and he ran one in himself. No turnovers on him this week. He'd had a couple fumble issues, but he got that under control. Gary Barnidge at tight end, he's
Catch of the year.
looking.
That's
Yeah,
catch of the year, hands down. No one's gonna top that unless Odell Beckham Jr. makes another insane grab like he did last year. But Gary Barnidge had the catch of the year by far.
he remains probably the top target on this team with McCown. Travis Benjamin's certainly up there, but Gary Barnidge for the third straight week has done exceptionally well. He's already reached his career highs in yards, receptions, and touchdowns. He's a big part of this offense and a big part of the success of this offense. Benjamin looked good again. He's definitely our deep threat. Taylor Gabriel came out of the woodwork again this week. It's nice to see him being mixed into it. But another big player is Duke Johnson, the rookie running back. We can't seem to start a running game each week, but I tell you what, he's a menace coming out of the backfield as a wide receiver, and he's doing big things for us. But aside from McCown and all those guys, a lot of this game, a lot of the success is coming from our rookie kicker, Travis Coons. The kid has ice water in his veins. Jared, I know you talked about in your article about Nugent having ice water in his veins. This kid, he just nails it dead on. Comes out there.
It's really great to see, too, them moving the extra point back. I think it's kind of rattled kickers. I think they're all afraid of failing this year.
Right.
And it's great to see Nugent and your guys' kicker come out and just make these big field goals in overtime that win your team the game. They're relied on heavily, and they become the GOAT very fast if they miss or mess up. So that was very awesome to see. Now I'm gonna say something here, E. Now, if you haven't read Ian's article about the Browns, it's a great article. Check out ohsportsradio.com and check it out. He recaps the whole win, but he starts it out with talking about Art Modell. Now, anytime you talk about Browns-Ravens, you got to bring up Art Modell. Now, I am a diehard Bengals fan, but as a sports fan, I was rooting for you guys heavily in this game. I hate the Ravens for what they are. Moving a historic franchise like the Cleveland Browns out of Cleveland, those fans are diehard fans through thick and thin, and just putting them through that is awful. And I put myself in the shoes if it was the Bengals moving out. I love the Bengals. If the Bengals were to move, I don't know how I would be heartbroken. So that was a great article, Ian. I just want to let you know that. And that this game has to be more than just getting a win. Beating the Ravens, they took your team, unrightfully so. So it's got to feel so good. Just
Yeah, it would be like Cincinnati playing Mike Brown's new team in L.A. every once in a while and just sticking it to him. It's an added motivation. I think the players know all about it. They were young at that time, but we're talking 1995, 98, so it's all in the history books for sure.
it's something we can talk about from afar, but we didn't live it. You know,
Right.
we lived through the terrible Bengals years. Yeah, the Browns fans lived through terrible years, had their team moved, and didn't have a team, and then had to watch their team win the Super Bowl. So that's what sucks. Ian, I know it's just there's rivalries in sports, but this is up there, man. This is something we know it from afar. I can talk about it, but you live it. So I mean, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
It's definitely up there. There is a strong hatred for. There's a stronger hatred for Art Modell, but anything to do with him, us Brown fans, we dislike thoroughly, and it's the Ravens. It feels good when we can get that victory against them. Doesn't matter where it's at, but it's that much sweeter when it's in Baltimore. For the people that don't know the history behind it, Modell was losing money on revenue because the stadium was falling apart. But just like all the years the Browns lose and we pack the stadium with fans, the fans never quit coming. And what it all boils down to, he said in a press conference, he said, I'm going to move the team to Baltimore. So the city of Cleveland turned around, voted for their taxes to go through the roof so they could put more money into a stadium. So we thought, okay, problem averted. Then the NFL gets involved with Art Modell, and they're like, you know what? We're just going to deactivate you. And Browns got deactivated. The Ravens got moved to Baltimore, and the rest is history. You know, Baltimore wins a Super Bowl, within, I think, 5 years of their expansion. Browns have been to the playoffs twice, I believe, since getting back into the league. And it's just one of those big, huge hiccups in Browns history. We talked about in that when we were talking about the Bengals a few minutes ago, we talked about some of the players' quotes and talking about how 5-0 didn't mean anything. One of the biggest quotes that I took away from this game after the game was what Mike Pettin, the head coach, said when he faced the media after the game. And he said, I talked to the guys. Sometimes you get wins that define things for you that become a turning point, and we're hoping that was this for us. We did a lot of bad things, but we found a way. That's what this league is all about. And I think the win Sunday could be a defining point for this team and for this season. I'm not saying playoffs or anything like that, but I think when you go and you fight back and you pull one out on the road against a team that's a rival in overtime with so much on the line early on in the season, I think it speaks volumes for your team and the character of your team. And
Yeah.
I just hope we build off this and we get better. McCown's the guy. The offense is looking good. Defense has to continue to step it up each week because that's what's lagging.
Yeah, and especially Baltimore was a preseason Super Bowl pick for a lot of people. So
That's looking pretty slim now.
now that we're talking about the AFC North a little bit, we got one final question. Jeremy Green asks, do we think it's possible that 3 teams from the AFC North could possibly make the playoffs? Now, at first I was like, no chance, but I started to break it down a little bit. I mean, it looks kind of possible. What do you guys think?
I will say this: it's happened before. In fact, I think it happened either last year or the year before with the Ravens, Steelers, and Bengals all making it. But yes, it is possible. I mean, and I wouldn't count the Ravens out, even though they look pretty down now, especially with all the tiebreakers in the division. I know that they had their lone win against Pittsburgh, but I still see them as the actual 4th place team in this division. I think if the Browns really do have that momentum going with Josh McCown, and they can get to 8, 9, 10 wins, it would be a absolute amazing season for them. And I also do think that if they do fall short and they end up with even 7 or 8 wins, I would look for Josh McCown to kind of reap some benefits of the league and maybe kind of get his name out there as sort of an NFL comeback player of the year or something like that. I think it's well deserved with the numbers he's been putting up and the way that he runs the offense with poise and precision. I think of Josh McCown as like Jared, if you remember when Carson Palmer came in and he was a rookie and they had John Kitna there to kind of mentor him, and they said, well, we know that Carson, you're the guy, but we're going to sit you and you're going to learn from Kitna, and he's the veteran and he's going to lead this team. And that seems to me like I'm not a complete insider on Cleveland, but what their situation was with Manziel. Manziel was the sexy pick and the fan favorite, but let's take the veteran, give him the reins, and let him lead this team a little bit. And I don't want to get too off topic, but I do want Ian's take on something that I saw in regards to the Browns. Is Joe Thomas just trolling the media with these Johnny Manziel comments, or does he actually really think that Manziel should be the starter? And if so, why is he saying these things now after a win? I mean, it sounds like he's just pulling one over on everyone. I don't know.
Real quickie.
I think he is. I think all he's doing is trolling. I don't think there's any substance to it. I think he's just having fun. He's the type of guy that he'll make comments and then everybody talks about it for a week or two. That's just how Joe is.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I saw that too. I thought it was weird. But Jeremy, to answer your question, I mean, if we break it down by division, AFC East, Rat, Pets. The AFC North, I believe it'll be the Bengals. AFC South, I think it'll be the Colts. I just don't think anyone else in that division has shown me anything at all. AFC West, let's just say the Broncos. The Broncos look bad, but they're winning games somehow. So there's 4 teams. We got two more seeds left. As of right now, the Jets are 3-1, Bills are 3-2, Steelers are 3-2, and then we got 3 teams: the Chargers, Oakland Raiders, and Cleveland, all sitting 2-3. Now, if those teams can run off some wins, if Cleveland can run off some wins, we definitely could look at 3 AFC North teams. Steelers are going to get Roethlisberger back. I doubt the Jets and Bills both make the playoffs with the Patriots, with Tyrod Taylor going down with the injury. Jets are flaky. Chargers, they're not as bad as their record, so they could make a move up. But they got a lot of tough games coming up, so it's definitely possible, man.
A lot of talented teams sitting at 2-3, and anyone can jump up or tank in the next 3 weeks.
Exactly. Okay, Ian, what do you think? Any take on that at all?
Browns got a rough schedule left. They play pretty much the same schedule as the Bengals since they're in the same division, but they still got to go on the road to the Rams. They got the Cardinals at home. They'll probably, I say they'll split with the Steelers. I would like to see them split with the Bengals, but right there, that's 4 losses, and then they're going to be going. They got to go out to Seattle in December. That's a 5th or 6th loss. It's going to be tough, but 8-8, I'm fine with. 7-9, I'm fine with. I just don't think it's in the cards for them this year as a 3rd team.
Right. Well, you know, they could start running some injuries, man. You never know in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
Changes week. But let's go into our NFL picks. Eve, you want to recap last week?
Yeah, week 5 recap. Chris and Jared finished 10-4. Their weekly wins are at 2 for the season. They both have the same record as far as overall wins versus losses at 49-27. I took week 5 at 11-3, just a 1-game differential between us all. That was my 3rd weekly win, and I'm sitting at 50-26.
Congrats, sir. Congrats. There's a lot of season left. There was a lot of 1-point losses this week. A lot of teams I took lost by 1 point. So I feel like had it gone the other way, I could be sitting there in the champion seat for this past week. But without further ado, let's get into our picks for this week. Game number 1, we got the Falcons on the road taking on the Saints in the Dome. Thursday night football. Chris, who do you got in this one?
Thursday nighter. Matt Ryan is pretty used to playing indoors. The Saints are not the same Saints. I don't know what happened with them this year. I'm sure they're not going to be favorites in this game. So I'm going to go chalk on this one and go with Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Even though they struggled last week, but they had a big comeback win. I think momentum's on their side. And at the same time, I just feel the Saints are dejected. So I'll go with Atlanta.
Ian?
I think the Falcons stay undefeated. I think they'll lose at some point, but it's not going to be this week. Until they lose, I'll keep taking them.
Yeah, this is a tough one. This was actually a tough game for me. I have actually been to this game on Thursday Night Football in the Superdome in New Orleans. It was awesome. Saints fans were great. We partied hard. They were cool, but they were good then. The Falcons are a much better team. This is a very hated rivalry, but I'm going with the Falcons. They got a lot of weapons, man. They look good. It'll be a good game, though, I think. But I'm taking the Falcons in this one. Game number 2, we got the Bengals on the road taking on the Buffalo Bills and Bills Mafia. Who do you guys have in this one, Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Stripes again. 5-0 is 5-0 is 5-0, and like Ian said, you got to show me some vulnerability, and or else I'm just going to keep going with you. Plus the Bills, I know they're at home. I know they have a new mantra, head coach, and a new philosophy this year, but they're going to miss their quarterback most likely, and their offense is a little bit shaky at best as it is. So I'm going to go Cincinnati at Buffalo for the win.
Ian?
I think the Bengals are the team to beat. Besides the Pats in the AFC, I don't see it happening this week. I'll go Bengals.
I say it once and I'll say it again. I will pick the Bengals every week this year. I don't care if they're playing the 85 Bears. Gotta say it. A couple stats. Andy Dalton has a passer rating of 115.9. That's the highest passer rating among any Bengals quarterback since Boomer Esiason did it in 1988. The last year they went to the Super Bowl. Last time they started off 5-0, 6-0. Boomer had a 114, so Andy was better than him there. Andy Dalton has a 60.9 rating on deep passes. That's only second in the league. Last year he was 33.3, so he's definitely increased. And, I mean, dude, he has 25 passes of 20 yards or more. You know who's beating him in the NFL? You want to take a guess?
Aaron Rodgers.
That's right, no one. Andy Dalton is leading the league in 20-yard passes. I'm taking the Bengals. Bills don't have Tyrod Taylor. It's supposed to snow this week in Buffalo, so football is back, baby. Football is back. I
love it.
I'm taking the Bengals. Game number 3, Redskins on the road taking on the New York Jets. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Oh, gosh. This is an ugly, ugly game. It looks ugly on paper. It'll look ugly on TV. Their jerseys look ugly next to each other. It's just gross all around. I'm going to go ahead and say Redskins for no reason at all. I have no insight.
Ian?
Thankfully for us, this game's not in our market, so we won't have to watch that. I'll go Jets at home.
This one's ugly for me as well. I'm taking the Jets for absolutely no reason except they're at home. I think they'll stuff the Redskins will stuff the run. They actually do have a good pass defense or rush defense. Their pass defense is terrible though. I'm taking the Jets for no reason at all. I don't know. Game 4, Cardinals on the road taking on the Steelers. Who do you guys have in this one, Chris?
A Super Bowl rematch. This game is intriguing. The Steelers got momentum from last night's big win. Le'Veon Bell delivered, but they'll still be without Roethlisberger, and the Cardinals are an offensive machine. Carson Palmer is Carson Palmer, and as long as Kimo von Oelhoffen is not still with the Steelers, I think the Cards come out with a victory.
Ian?
February 1st, 2009. Super Bowl. Cardinals, Steelers. Santonio Holmes rips my heart out and tramples all over it. I went on a 1-year Buckeye ban. Didn't watch Ohio State the next year. I'm going with my Cardinals this week. I like Palmer against that defense. I think they'll be able to steal no pun intended, steal a win from Pittsburgh.
I think this will be a good game. Mike Vick has actually filled in pretty well. I know Roethlisberger, they're saying he wants to come back this week, but I would not let him. I'm here in week 8. I'm going to take the Cardinals in this one. He looks great. He's got too many weapons on offense. Steelers secondary sucks. Going Cardinals in this one. Chiefs on the road taking on the Vikings. Who do you guys have in this one? Chris?
Kansas City, the season just keeps getting worse and worse for them. They lose Jamal Charles now for a question mark amount of time, probably the rest of the year. It's an ACL tear, I think.
Yep, ACL tear.
So he's done.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Vikings in this one. Just the momentum is gone in Kansas City, and the Vikings are going to end up with the win here at home.
Ian?
I think the Chiefs' season's done altogether without Charles. I'm going Vikings.
I agree with you guys. So I was so upset to see him go down. No affiliation to him. He's not on my fantasy team or anything. I just like watching him play. He's a great running back. He's a workhorse, and it was on non-contact. That's always the worst. So I'm taking the Vikings in this one. I think they win this one pretty easily. Bears versus the Lions. Who do you guys have in this one? Bears going to Detroit. Chris?
The NFC North showdown, Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh my! I'm gonna go with the Chicago Bears, just because I think they're the better of two bad teams. They play more competitive football, frankly, and the Lions' last game was a complete embarrassment for everyone that was involved in it. So give me Chicago.
Ian?
I think Detroit's the worst team in the league. They don't do anything that resembles football. The Bears have looked decent the last couple of weeks. Cutler's starting to get into a little groove. Maybe this week Alshon Jeffrey comes back. I don't know. Matt Forte's looking really good. I got the Bears on the road.
Yeah, I've said it once and I'll say it a million times. Matthew Stafford is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. How does this guy get a pass every week? We consistently beat down Andy Dalton, Jay Cutler, all these quarterbacks. Andy Dalton is playing out of his mind. Jay Cutler's been hurt, but Jay Cutler has looked good the past 2 weeks. He looked good last week. Matthew Stafford has had Calvin Johnson on his team, who has been the best receiver in the league for so many years. How does he constantly? First, it was and Ndamukong Suh. He's a bad. He's cancer in the locker room. The coach. Blah 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 blah. Matthew Stafford at some point has to get blame put on him. He looks terrible. He's guaranteed 2 interceptions. The Lions stink. They're the worst team in the league. Bears win this one.
Early in his career, Stafford goes 10-6, and he's a god in Detroit, untouchable.
They're terrible. They have to put the blame on Matthew Stafford at some time. He is moon face. He stinks. His face is so round, I can't stand it.
Maybe it starts Sunday.
They pulled him for Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky came into the game. They pulled Matthew Stafford out. I mean, the blame has to get put on Stafford at some point. I don't understand it. He sucks. Bears win this one.
Dude, there's people in Detroit that's still blaming Matt Millen.
Insane. It's insane. Insane. The Lions fans need to wake up. Matthew Stafford is not your quarterback. He stinks. He may be a good backup, but you're paying him $50 million, so he can't be a backup. He stinks. He's not your quarterback going forward. Move on. He's not good. Bears all day. Broncos on the road taking on your Browns in Cleveland. Ian, I'm going to let you lead off. Who do you got in this one?
Boys, there's going to be one less undefeated team after this week. I am guaranteeing a Cleveland win.
Oh, my.
Wow. Okay. Ian just dropped the mic on that one. Chris, who are you taking in this one?
I don't know. I'm in shock. A guarantee is a big thing. Now, this is in Cleveland?
It's in Cleveland.
Okay. Huge emotional momentum swinging win. I see where he's coming from on this one, and I will be pulling for the Browns with my heart, but I'm pulling for the Broncos with my head and strategy, of course. But I'm going to go ahead and go with Denver and Peyton Manning. Just for the fact of where both teams are at this point. I know last week I can see why he's doing that, and I'm very tempted to change my mind. But no, I'm going to go Broncos.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Broncos 5-0, they're rolling. Peyton Manning doesn't look good, though, and they're going to be without DeMarcus Ware, who's kind of been their best player on defense. The Browns, always a tough place to go and play. McCown's playing great. I think we see an upset. Cleveland beats the Broncos at home. I think it's going to be a close game, 21-20, something like that. It will be a close game, but I think the Browns will get this one done, and I think it will be a huge win for you guys if you get it. You guys will absolutely roll off a few games if you get this one.
Yeah, huge. It'll be 3-3, and the season will it's a season changer.
But I'm taking the Browns. I'm agreeing with you, Ian. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm taking the Browns in this one. Texans on the road taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Well, I went with my Jags last week, and they do what they always do. So I'm going to go with them again this week. and hope for a different outcome. I think with Jacksonville being at home, it's another tale of two bad teams. They at least were competitive with Tampa Bay. They're not a good road team. They're actually not a good home team, but I feel better about them at home down south, so I'll go with the Jaguars.
Ian?
Only two teams ranked lower in ESPN's power rankings than the Texans. It's the Jaguars and Lions. By no means am I basing my pick off of that. If the Texans start Hoyer and let him play, that offense can do so much more. I like the Texans in this game.
Okay. I hope there's actually a quarterback controversy because I want to see Ryan Mallett cry again on the sideline. I thought that was great. I think Hoyer should be the starter, hands down. I'm taking the Texans on the road to beat the Jaguars. Simply J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins is a monster. Is Foster going to play in this one? If he does, I'm taking the Texans. Jaguars suck. Dolphins on the road against the Titans. Chris, who do you got in this one?
Dolphins coming off a bye. They're a bad team as well. The Titans have shown signs of life. They didn't get the win last week at Buffalo or against Buffalo at home. Again, they had a lead and blew it. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Titans in this one again, though. I just think they have too much offensive firepower. Their receivers are coming around, and Mariota's getting them the ball. He's also running some plays on his own and making some good plays with his feet. So I have more faith in the Titans in this one. I'll go with Tennessee.
Ian?
Dolphins coming off a bye and a new head coach. I think that Dan Campbell, that tight ends coach, I think he's going to provide a spark. I think he's a no-nonsense guy. I don't think the spark happens this week, though. I think the Titans are too much with that defense. I like the Titans at home.
This was a toss-up game for me. Dolphins are terrible. I think Tannehill's overrated. Sue is a nutcase and apparently just running his own plays on defense. But Dan Campbell is apparently also a nutcase. I don't know if you guys heard he was running Oklahoma drills in practice, which is insane. You don't do that in the middle of the season. But the Dolphins are due for a win. I'm going opposite of you guys. I'm taking the Dolphins on the road in this one simply because I think Dan Campbell is going to provide some kind of spark, and I think they do enough to beat the Titans on the road.
You still got some of that Dolphins Kool-Aid left, don't you?
Nope, none of it. I believe you're the one who was telling me about the Harvard thing. I'm taking the Dolphins. I think they can grab a win and get me a pick in front of you guys this week. So I'm taking the Dolphins.
Even the worst teams in the NFL get 3 and 4 wins a year. You got to know where they're at.
Exactly. I'm taking the Dolphins in this one. Next game, this is going to be a good game. Panthers on the road taking on the Seahawks in the 12-man. I think they're actually just called the 12 now because they were getting sued by Texas Tech. So taking on the Seahawks in the 12. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Well, the Seahawks are in trouble, and they're in trouble the same way that the Ravens were in trouble in week number 4. They didn't want to start off 0-3. They didn't want to start off 0-4. The Ravens showed some fight. Seattle's in the same position. Being at home, being angry. They had one stolen from them. They just had terrible plays down the stretch. Seattle had the game won in Cincinnati and completely blew it. I'm going to go with the Seahawks in this one. I know that Carolina's playing great football. I think they're a good team. I think they're probably a better team, but I think sometimes a better team loses, and we're going to find out if Seattle has the fight to really move forward. I think they do, and I think they get it done Sunday.
Ian?
Panthers have looked so good on so many levels. I think it's just so tough to go into Seattle and get a win. I know they talked about Kuechly return to practice this week. I don't know if he's going to be playing for the Panthers or not. But
he was full contact. That changes it for you. So it looks like he is going to play. No, I've hexed Andrew Luck many times this year, but he is full contact. So go ahead, E.
I still think it's too much to go into Seattle and take out a win. I like the Seahawks in this one, but I think this is probably going to be one of the best games on the schedule this week.
I agree. It's going to be a fantastic game. Seattle, it's a tough place to play. Actually, last time the Bengals went there, they won, but no big deal. It's a tough place to play. The Panthers are good, but I don't see the Seahawks losing at home. Is Marshawn Lynch going to play this game? Does anybody know? Regardless.
Questionable again. So
Yes.
he has been in practice and limited participant. I'm going to say he probably plays.
Well, Rawls looked really good against the Bengals. So I'm going to take the Seahawks at home. I think they're just too tough to beat. I'm taking the Seahawks. I don't know. Chargers on the road taking on the Packers at mighty Lambeau Field. Who do you guys have in this one?
Well, the Chargers are yet another good team that's sitting at 2-3, and the NFL is loaded with them right now, as Seattle and others. They're 2-3. They're angry. They're desperate for a win, and unfortunately, the schedule now is getting to the point where it's going to be tougher and tougher to come by. Conventional wisdom says the Packers win this game. It's tough to go against the Packers at Lambeau, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to pick the Chargers. I'm going to think they have enough.
Wow.
Enough
Wow.
gumption. I think Phillip Rivers is in desperation mode. Aaron Rodgers makes one too many mistakes. There's an upset every week. This is my big one here. I'm going Chargers over Pack.
That is a big upset. Ian, who do you have in this one?
Do you guarantee that upset, Chris?
I can't do that. We can't both go down in flames today. I'm just going to let you.
All right, that works for me. I'm going with the Packers until they're beat. I can't go against them.
Yeah, this is an actual easy one for me. The Chargers are better than the record. They got Antonio Gates back. He looked great. Looked well rested. But I'm actually going to take the Packers at home in this one. Rodgers threw 2 interceptions for the first time at home since 2012. That's insane. Rodgers, he's the best in the business. It's like watching Jordan in his prime. I'm taking the Packers at home in this one. Ravens on the road taking on the 49ers in San Francisco. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Another Super Bowl rematch. I'm going to go ahead and go with Baltimore. I don't think they're as good as they have been in the past, but frankly, neither are the 49ers. Baltimore's an all-around better team. Their defense gives up a ton of points, but they're opportunistic, and their receivers are coming around as well. So Baltimore's putting up numbers. San Francisco is not. I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Ian?
Unless Steve Young's playing, I'm going with the Ravens.
Okay. I'm going opposite of you guys. I'm taking the 49ers at home. Forsett went down with an ankle injury last week. That could be big. I don't know if it will be or not. Flacco, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't think the Ravens' defense is that great. 49ers, I know, have played bad, but they're playing at home. They showed life this past game. I'm taking the 49ers in this one. Patriots, this is the game of the week, in my opinion. Patriots on the road taking on the Colts in Indianapolis. As you all know, the Colts were the team that kind of let the air out, if you will, of the Deflategate issue with the Patriots in the AFC title game last year. So this is a big game. Obviously, the Patriots, they had this one circled on their calendar. Chris, Ian, who do you guys have in this one? Chris, I'll let you go first.
Back in the days of Peyton Manning and the unstoppable Colts offense, this was always the real Super Bowl, the AFC title game. It was more entertaining. It was better football to watch than the actual Super Bowl, and it was always Patriots-Colts. It's not going to be quite that much of a fire show, but it's going to be really, really close. Indianapolis, hungry for a win. They want to separate themselves in the AFC South. They believe they're the best team. I believe they're the best team out there in the AFC South. Patriots aren't going to go 16-0, and I think it starts Sunday. I'm going Colts at home in the Dome.
Wow. Chris, you were throwing up some upsets, buddy. Ian, what about you, man? Who do you have in this one?
I got to pick my jaw up first. Jared, do you have a percentage on whether or not Andrew Luck's going to start?
I'm hearing it's 99.9% sure he will start this weekend again.
Oh, you're leaving
I've heard that the last 2 weeks, and it hasn't happened.
He's my fantasy quarterback, so I think I've kind of put a little hex on him. But I'm hearing 99.9% sure this is from the mouth breather himself's mouth. So that's what I'm hearing.
All right. I think it's going to be a good one, especially if Luck plays. I don't know. I do think it's going to be a good one, but like the Packers, like the Bengals, like the Falcons, until the Patriots get beat, I'm going to keep taking the Patriots.
Okay. Now, Chris, I think you're absolutely crazy for taking the Colts. They've looked terrible. Their offensive line does not look good. Luck hasn't looked good all year. They're winning with Hasselbeck, but I don't know how. I don't know what kind of rabbit's foot he found or four-leaf clover he found to play like he has and get these teams to victories. The Patriots look like the most complete team in the NFL to me. I think the Bengals are very complete, but the Patriots look unstoppable right now. They are clearly in let's destroy everybody mode. We don't care. We're taking the NFL down.
Yeah.
The Colts are the team that they want to destroy. They've had this game circled since all these allegations came out. Tom Brady went from being suspended for 4 games to putting up career numbers in 4 games. So I think it continues this week. I think it's a bloodbath in Indianapolis. I think the Patriots will eclipse 50 points. I think it is an absolute bloodbath in Indianapolis. Patriots all day in this one. Um, Final game of the week. This is the Monday Night Football game. Giants on the road taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. Tough game. Tough game. Chris, who do you have in this one?
I've got the Eagles. I liked what they gave me last week. I think I mentioned it last week that Chip Kelly was in must-win mode. His seat is white hot. He's totally been taking over that entire team. He's been given the reins. He's been entrusted to revolutionize football in Philly, and he got to win. But it's not going to be enough. He needs more, and he knows it. I think the momentum is going to be there. The Giants are playing good football too. This is probably the most entertaining game on the schedule as far as I'm concerned. But, the Monday night game somehow always manages to disappoint. Besides this past week, that was a good one. I'm going to go with Philly at home. It's going to be a tough atmosphere for Eli Manning and the Giants. I think there's just too much riding on it for Philly, and the Giants seem to be coasting right now. I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Ian?
I think this game kind of refaces the landscape in that NFC East. I think whoever wins this goes to first place, if I'm not mistaken. The Giants are hot right now. Eli's looking great. He's firing on all cylinders. But like Chris talked about, last week Chip Kelly had to win. He did. I think it's a toss-up. It's one of those, if I was a person that was in charge of making the spread, I'd make this a pick'em game. And I'm solely taking the Eagles because they're at home. But I think it's going to be a great Monday night battle.
So a couple things about this game. Eagles look great. Last week they look great. They're starting to throw the ball, which I think Chip Kelly's realizing. Like DeMarco Murray had a good game as well for the first time in his young Eagles career. But the Eagles are starting to throw the ball more. So Chip, I think he's a really good coach. I think he does know, like, okay, look, the Giants have the worst pass defense in the NFL. They're ranked 32nd in the NFL. I think he's going to throw the ball a lot. Bradford has shown signs of being able to throw on teams. He looks okay. The Giants are rolling, though, right now. They look really good. Eli Manning looks great. Anytime you have a player like Odell Beckham Jr., you're gonna always have that threat. But man, I got to take the Eagles at home in this one. Fly, Eagles, fly. I think it'll be a great game. I think it's going to be one of the best on the card. It's a great week of games. So there you have it. I got the Eagles in this one. Hopefully I can win this week. But great week of NFL football ahead of us, guys. That's it. That's all we have for you on this week's episode 4 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. It's fun, again. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. You guys are awesome. We need more questions next week, guys, especially Browns questions. I feel bad for Ian. We're getting a lot of Bengals questions. We need more Browns questions. But thank you to everyone who continues to read our stuff. Head over to our website, ohsportsradio.com. We got a ton of great articles. We're trying to do stuff every day for you guys. So follow us on Twitter. It's at Ohio Sports Radio. Give us a like on Facebook. Everything, guys. Thank you so much for all you do for us, and we're going to continue to grow this thing. It's fun. We love doing it. Chris, Ian, you guys got anything to say?
Not much. I left you last week with words of wisdom. I said, at this time next week, we're going to be looking at the 5-0 Bengals and the 2-3 Browns. I'm not as confident as Ian. I can't guarantee the same thing that Ohio brings home the glory again this week. But it looks like a 6-0 Bengals squad, and I'm happy about that.
Ian?
6-0, 3-3. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about how Peyton Manning had the worst game of his career.
Yeah, a little tidbit here. The Bengals have only started 6-0 twice in franchise history. 1975, and the last time they went to the Super Bowl, 1988. The team that this Bengals current team is compared to a lot. I hope we start 6-0 again. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I like our chances. I like our matchup, and I hope the Browns put it to the Broncos. I really do. So Ian's happy this week, and I get another great article from him. But awesome. Thank you guys again. Again, check out our website, ohsportsradio.com. We're constantly putting things on there for you guys. A lot of great articles, so go check that out. Follow us on Twitter at Ohio Sports Radio. Give us a like on Facebook, Ohio Sports Radio on Facebook. Again, thank you to everyone who asked questions. We need more questions next week. Thank you for everybody who's going to watch this show. You guys are awesome. And thank you to you, Chris and Ian. Keep up the hard work. And Ian, who day?
We bark together.
Chris?
Who day?
Who day? Thank you, guys.